Hello Divi Nation and welcome. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to create a striking navigation dashboard with Divi's new column structures. This is the final design we're aiming to achieve, so without wasting a lot of time, let's dive in and let's get started. Okay, so before we begin, we are going to have two color palettes. We're going to have a dark version and a light version. So all the colors are going to be in the post, which I'll link to in the show notes below. So let's get started and let's start by creating a brand new page. So I'm going to come over here to pages, click on add new. So I'm going to give this page a name. So I'm just going to call this striking navigation dashboard. Click on use the Divi builder. And then we're going to go to the visual builder. Right. So we are going to start building our page from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And for now, I'm going to close this and go into my section settings. So what I'm also going to do here, I prefer designing my site with this snap to the left. So I'm going to click here on this little button. And now my settings are always going to be snapped to the left. So I'm going to start by adding my background color. So I'm going to come over here to background and then I'm going to add my dark color because I'm going to start designing the darker version of this. Right. So I'm going to paste my color in here. Next, we are going to add a padding to this section, both to the top and the bottom. So I'm going to click here on design. Spacing. So my padding here is going to be 100 for the top and 100 for the bottom. So if you haven't noticed, I clicked on this chain. Now by clicking this chain, it applies the value both to the top and the bottom. So we're done for now. I'm going to go ahead now and save. Next, we need to add our column structure. So I'm going to click here on this plus button and the column structure we're going to go with is this one right here. I'm going to select it. So next we are going to add our background colors. So we're going to start with column 1. So we're going to go into our row settings, click on background, and then we're going to come over here to column 1, background color, click this plus button, and I'm going to paste my value in here. Next, we're going to come over here to design because we need to make this row full width. So I'm going to click on sizing, make this row full width. And then I'm also going to come over here to our custom gutter width. By default, it's set to 3. I'm going to set this to 2. Now the gutter width is just the distance between the columns. So I've just reduced them a little bit. And then we're also going to come over here and equalize the column height. So I'm going to set this to yes. Next, we're going to come over here to spacing and we are going to start by adding a padding bottom of 100. So I'm just going to add it here. And then we're going to come over here to column 1 top and bottom padding, set this to 100 and then activate this chain. And then for the left and right padding, we're going to set this to 50, both for the left and the right. Click this chain icon so the value is applied to both sides. So I think that's all we need to add for now. So let's go ahead and save. Next, we're going to come over here to the first column and add a text module. So I'm going to click this plus button, search for my text module and select it. So in this text module, we're just going to add our text, which says perhaps welcome to your dashboard. And then we're going to set this to heading 1. So I'm going to highlight the text and then I'm going to come over here. By default, it's set to paragraph. So I'm going to set it to heading 1. Now let's go into the text settings. So I'm going to click here on design and then I'm going to come over here to heading text and start by changing my font weight. So I'm going to click here on header font weight, set this to bold, alignment, left. Now the color of my text, since we're on a dark background, we're going to set it to white. So I'm going to select it here. Now let's head over here to the heading text size and set our sizes. So first of all, let's start with the desktop. We're going to set this to 75 and then we might as well adjust the sizes for our mobile devices. So I'm going to click this little icon here and go to my tablet tab and then I'm going to set this to 55 and then over here on the phone tab, we're going to set this to 36. Now this is very important that you go in and set the sizes of your fonts because you want to make sure that your website looks great on all devices. And if you want to keep this in 2 lines, all you have to do is to just come over here on this pencil icon and then just drag this a little bit until you have this in 2 lines. So you may need to change this based on your screen size. Okay, so we're done customizing our text here. So the next stage now is to go in and add a divider. So I'm going to save this and then I'm going to click this plus button to add my divider module. So I'm going to first of all search for it, select it, and then we're going to give this a color. So I'm going to come over here to design, color, and this needs to be set to white. Next, we're going to come over here to the sizing and we are going to set this to 27%. Now we're going to come over here to spacing and we're going to give this a top margin of 50. Right, so now it's time to add our final module. So I'm going to save this and then I'm going to highlight over here on this area, click this plus button and add a text module. So I'm just going to search for it, select it. Right, so what we need to do here is to just justify this text. So I'm going to click here on this icon to justify the text. Next, we're going to come over here to design, sizing, and we are going to change the width to 80%, but this is going to be on the desktop. Right, so we might as well add the sizes for the tablet. So I'm going to click here on this little icon, and then I'm going to click on the tablet and the phone and make sure this is set to 100%. Okay, so as you can see here in the preview, all this is in the right place. So moving on, let's come over here to spacing and add a top margin of 50 and then save. Now it's time to come over here to column 2 and we are going to add a blurb module. So I'm going to click this plus button here, search for my blurb module. I'm going to select it. Okay, so now that we have our blurb, the next thing we need to do is to add our icon. So I'm going to come over here to image and icon, click on use icon. So I'm going to scroll down here and choose the icon I need to use. So in my example here, I'm going to go with this icon here. So I'm going to select it. Next, I'm going to come over here to the background, click this plus button to add my background color, and I'm going to paste it. Right, so now that we have all this all set, let's come back over here to the text, and I'm just going to say title here on the top, and this is where the title goes. And then over here, I'm just going to reduce this text like that. Next, what we need to do is to come over here to design, click on image and icon, and we are going to enable the circle icon. So I'm going to select it, and our circle here is going to be white. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then over here on the icon color, I'm just going to click here on the eyedropper tool and paste my color between the brackets like that. Right, so all is looking good now. Next, I need to adjust my size of my icon. So right now it's a bit too big. So I'm going to come over here to use icon font size, and then I'm going to set this to 33. Okay, so that's nice and small and it looks much better. Right, so as we can see here, the text here is not easy to read because of this dark background. So let's go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to come over here to my text settings. First of all, I'm going to make it all centered, and then I'm going to click here on dark and change it to light. Right, so the next thing we're going to do here is, as you can see, we don't have a lot of space around our text and our icon. So we need to add some padding. So I'm going to come over here to spacing. So for my padding, I'm going to add 75 to the top and the bottom. And I'm just going to activate my chain, and that value is going to be applied to the bottom as well. And then over here for the left and right, I'm going to set it to 30. And then again, I'm going to activate my chain. So as you can see here, our design is looking much better because it has breathing space. Right, so let's go ahead now and make some adjustments on our title text and our text. So in my case here, I prefer just clicking this paintbrush tool because this takes me directly to my blurb settings. So I'm going to click here, and now you can see it's on H4, and I can go ahead now and make my changes. So first of all, I'm going to come over here and make this ultra bold, make it all caps, and then we're going to save. Right, so now that we have this, the next thing we need to do now is to clone this 3 times. So I'm just going to do this 3 times and then drag these into position like that. Okay, so now we have these 4 blocks. So the next thing we're going to do now is to go into each and every one of these and change the icons. So I'm going to do this on one of them, and then you can just go ahead and make those exact same steps to change the colors and the icons of the other 2. Right, so, and again, the colors are in the post, which I'll link to in the show notes below. So over here, I'm just going to click on this gear icon to go into my blurb settings, and then I'm going to come over here to image and icon. Scroll down here until I find the icon that I need to use, and I'm going to select it. Next, I'm going to come over here to the background, change my background color. So I'm going to click in this area and paste my color in here. Right, so the next step now is to also add our icon color. So I'm going to come over here to design, image and icon, and then I'm going to change my icon color as well. So I'm going to click here on this eyedropper tool and paste my color in here. So as you can see, this color here is the same as the background color. So go ahead and change the icons on the other two blocks, and then also add the colors. The steps are exactly the same. So now that we have all this in place, next we're going to add our background pattern. So I'm going to click here on this gear icon to enter my blurb settings. Next, I'm going to come over here to background, and then I'm going to click this third tab. Click the plus button, and it's time now to add our pattern. So I'm going to come over here to upload files, select files. So I'm going to come over here to my downloads folder, and then I'm going to upload my pattern. Now this pattern can be found on the post, which I'll link to in the show notes below. All you have to do is to right click on it and then upload it onto your media library. So now that I have it all selected, I'm going to click upload an image. And now you can see that it's right there in the background, but this doesn't really look really nice. So we need to make further adjustments. So first of all, we're going to come over here and set it to actual size. And then we're going to come over here and add our image position and set it to center. And then for the background repeat, we're going to set this to repeat. So now we can see that we have this beautiful pattern in the background. So what you need to do next is to add this pattern the same way we've done it here on the rest of these blurbs. Okay, now it's time to add our second row. So I'm going to click this plus button here, choose one single column. I'm going to close this for now because we're not going to insert our module yet. And then I'm going to come over here to my row settings. We're going to come over here to design, sizing. We're going to make this row full width and also set our gutter width. So I'm going to set yes to the gutter width and set it to 2 as we did with the previous row. So I'm going to set it here. Next, we're going to come over here to our spacing, and we are going to add a padding of 50 to the top and the bottom. Activate my chain and then save. So what we're going to do next here is to add our text module. So I'm going to click on this plus button, search for my text module, and then select it. So I'm just going to add a title here. So we can just call this highlighted features. Highlight the text, change this to heading 2. And then we're going to come over here to the design tab and make some adjustments. So first of all, I'm going to come over here to heading text, heading 2. And then we're going to make this bold. So I'm going to select that. Alignment, left. Now we're going to set our heading 2 text size to 32. And then save. Next, we're going to add our divider. So I'm going to come over here, click this plus button, search for my divider. In fact, it's right here. I'm going to select my divider module. And then I'm going to set my divider color. So I'm going to come over here to design, color, set my color to white. And then we're going to come over here to sizing and adjust the width of this line. And we're going to set this to 9%. And then we're going to come over here to spacing and give this a padding of 20 to the top. And then save. Right, so now it's time to add another row. So I'm going to click this plus button. And this row is going to have 4 columns. I'm going to select my columns and then close this. Next, we're going to add our column background color. So I'm going to come over here to my row settings, click on background. I'm going to click this plus button to add my background color. I'm going to paste it. And then we're going to come over here to our design settings, click on sizing, set this row to full width. And we're also going to come over here to our gutter width and set this to 2. And we're also going to equalize our column height. And then over here on spacing, we're going to add some padding both to the top and the bottom. So I'm going to set it to 100. Activate my chain. So now my value is been applied to the top and the bottom. And then we're going to save. Next, we're going to come over here to column 1, click this plus button and add a blurb module. So I'm going to select it. And then over here on the icons, this time you have the freedom to choose any icon that you want to use. So I'm going to come over here to image and icon, activate use icon. And then I'm just going to go with, let's see. Right, I'll go with this camera here. And then next on the text here, I'm just going to simplify this text and just leave a title called title. And then over here as well, I'm going to delete some of this text. Now let's add our background color. So I'm going to come over here to background, click the plus button and paste my color in here. Right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to make some adjustments to our icon. So I'm going to come over here to design, image and icon. And then we're going to add our icon color. So I'm going to click this this eyedropper tool, paste my color in here. And then I'm going to come over here and activate my circle icon, make my circle white. And then we're going to set the icon size to 33. Now let's move on to the text settings. So I'm going to click over here on text, make sure that this is set to centered. And we're going to change our color from dark to light. And then I'm going to come over here to my title. So I'm going to click here on this brush tool so I can go directly to my heading. And then I'm going to make this uppercase, change my font weight from regular to ultra bold. And then for the body text color, I'm just going to come over here, click on this brush tool, and I'm going to click on the eyedropper tool and paste my color in here. Now let's give this some breathing space. So I'm going to add a top padding and a bottom padding of 50. So I'm going to scroll down here and go to spacing, go to my padding, set my 50. And because I'm going to set this to top and bottom, I'm going to activate this chain. So now we have equal padding. And then for the left and right, we're going to do the same, but this time the value is going to be 30. So for now, we're going to save. And then we're going to add a button to this first column. So I'm going to click this plus button, search for my button module. So the first thing I'm going to do is to come over here to design, alignment, and then center it. Now we need to add our settings to our button. So we need to come over here to button and activate use custom styles for button. So I'm going to say yes to that. So the text size, I'm going to set this to 15. For our button text color, I'm going to set this to white. Next, I'm going to come over here to my border width and I'm going to set this to 0 and also the button border radius. Now for the font weight, we're going to set this to ultra bold. Next, for the font weight, we're going to set this to ultra bold. So I'm going to select that. We're going to make it all uppercase. And for the spacing, I'm going to give this a bottom margin of 30. So I'm going to save this for now. And then I'm going to come over here to my row settings, click on background. And I'm going to remove this background color. I'm going to save this for now. So what we need to do here is to go into our row settings and click on background. So we need to give this color background onto each and every column. So I'm going to come over here, click the plus button and add my background like that. So you need to continue and add this color on all the columns. And then I'm going to add the final one like that and then save. So next you want to clone this 3 times to fill these spaces here. So I'm just going to do that. So this time I'm just doing it manually. Drag into position just like that. We also need to do the same here, but this time I'm going to do my shortcut, Command C to copy, Command V to paste. So what you need to do next is to change these icons. So I'm just going to do one of them and then you can go ahead and do the rest. So I've just clicked on my blurb settings. Then I'm going to come over here to image and icon, and then I'm going to choose my icons. So this time I'm just going to go with maybe this one here, save, and then just go ahead and do the same too. So next you want to go in and change these icon colors. So again, I'm just going to change the color of the first icon, and then you can go ahead and change the colors of the remainder. Right, so I'm going to click here on my module settings, click on design, image and icon. And then for my icon color, I'm just going to paste my color in here, just like that. Save, and then go ahead and do the rest. Right, so the next thing we need to do is to copy this row that we have here on the top because we're just about to add another row. So I'm just going to duplicate this and then drag it below what we've just created here. So I'm just going to drag this down here like that. And then here, we're just going to change this to all features. So as you can see, I'm just going to do some inline editing here. Next, I'm going to clone this row because this saves us recreating this over again. So I'm just going to do that and then drag it into position. So this time we're going to drag this below this title here, which says all features. Next, we're going to come over here to our column structure and we're going to go with 5 columns. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add a background color to this extra column that we've just created. So we're going to come back over here to our row settings, click on background, and then I'm just going to copy this color here and then scroll all the way down to column number 5 click this plus button and add our column background. And then we're going to save. Next, we're just going to duplicate one of these and add it into position just by dragging it like that. Do the same here. Drag it into position. And then we're going to come over here and change the icon and the icon color. So I'm going to click here on image and icon. Drag this all the way down until I find my icon. And this time we're going to go with this one here and save. So finally, what we need to do is to clone this row one more time. And then we're going to add more features here. So all you have to do is to go in and change these icons and make them look different. And that's what's going to resemble all our features. So pretty much this is the final design. So I'm going to go ahead now, add these icons, and then we're going to do the final preview. So now that I've added all my icons and I've also changed my colors, all I have to do is to come over here and reduce this padding. So I'll probably leave it at about 30. So now they're a bit closer together, and then I can go to this bottom one here and do the same. Give this a bit of breathing space, so maybe about 40. So pretty much this is our design. I'm going to save the page and then we're going to do a quick preview.
So there you have it. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and do follow us on our social media platforms. By doing so, you'll be notified every time we release new tutorials. Until next time, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.